I built a personal brand content strategy that actually helps grow my business and it doesn't take over my life. And here's how I did it. The overwhelming main objection that I hear from founders all the time is, how am I going to build a personal brand? I don't even have time to keep my head on straight. Just the idea of adding one more thing to their plate feels completely overwhelming. And I never have to convince them that building a personal brand is a really good idea. They all feel that way. They all want to be doing it. And I think that people really are starting to understand, the small business owners, startup founders, solopreneurs, they understand that their best chance and their best method of breaking through the competition in their industry and space is to be out front, is to not be a faceless brand or hide behind their logo, but really differentiate themselves by being that credible source out front. I don't tend to hear that. It's always the practical piece of it. How am I possibly going to work this into my week? How am I going to build a strategy that is effective, but doesn't feel like I got a whole other job? And I felt the exact same way. I put off building a personal brand for so long. I've been investing in my personal brand for almost 2 years now. And I can't imagine where I'd be right now if I had been doing that for 4 or 5 by this point. So I want to help founders understand that you absolutely can do this in a manageable way that is effective and actually will help bring the visibility, attention, credibility, and trust to your business that you really, really need in order to make a big difference in your marketing this year, as well as just positioning yourself either as a small business owner, founder, solopreneur, whoever it is, to be this trusted source that can open up other revenue possibilities for you as an individual as well. I know that it feels super overwhelming, but hopefully everything I'm going to share today is really going to help you make it happen in a sustainable, efficient, but still effective way. Like I said, I don't tend to have to convince people this is a really good idea, but just in case you're still on the fence and you're like, okay, I'm thinking about it, but if I'm going to put the time and effort into this, because it is going to require some of that, I need to be a little bit more convinced. Well, you come to the right place, because I love data points and I have 5 of my favorite ones actually to share here. And I think this will really help you understand how we're shifting towards this trust economy idea. I keep talking about this a lot, that we're not in a funnel world anymore, but a trust economy. Building trust is the number one currency that you need to develop for your business. And the easiest, most effective, and most efficient, potent, whatever word you want to use to do that, is for the founder to be out front. Nobody gives your business more credibility than you. You started the business and you probably did it from subject matter expertise or passion or whatever. The person that can give the most visibility, the most engagement to your business that can then lead to greater trust is you. You are your company's greatest asset, whether you realize it or not. So these data points absolutely continue to drive that home. Okay, a few of my favorites. 82% of people are more likely to trust a company when their leadership is active on social media. 60% of decision makers say that thought leadership directly led them to award business to a company. So this is a direct, correlation. We're not talking about just reputation engineering is very, very important. I'm hearing that talked about a lot. I like that terminology. Somebody talked about that this week on LinkedIn, that marketing isn't promotion anymore, but reputation engineering, especially in B2B spaces. I think that's absolutely true. And with services. But there is a direct correlation. It's not just that. There's a direct correlation between people who are active and their leadership is active in the digital space and awarding business to, those companies. 75% of people say a piece of thought leadership content led them to research a product or service they weren't previously considering. So you can literally show people they need something they didn't even know they needed because of the position that you have as a founder, as this credible subject matter expert out in front for your company. 52% of decision makers and 54% of C-suite execs spend an hour or more weekly reading thought leadership content, specifically on LinkedIn. That makes the case to me that every founder, every business owner, every subject matter expert for their company should be out front, because people are already spending the time, they're already occupying the space. So get in front of them while they're already there. And then my last one, 82% of buyers say B2B creator content influences them, and nearly 80% engage with it weekly. Once again, they're already doing it. Like, they're already there. You're not even having to convince them to come to a place or come to a space and then engage with you. They're already there. Meet them where they're at. It can make a massive difference in the ability to, again, bring that visibility, credibility, and trust to your business. But like I said, I rarely hear that people don't already understand these things. I think this is all kind of like, yeah, duh, cool. You have data, you have evidence, great. But how do I actually make this happen? Because I don't have time and I don't know how to do it in a way where if I'm going to spend the time on it, if I'm going to do it, if I'm going to try to build a personal brand, if I'm going to put myself out there and break through the cringe and all those different things that I have to do, how can I be sure this is going to be effective and not completely take over my life? Glad you asked. Here are some of the steps that I have taken that I have messed up and then corrected, and that I would give this advice to any founder. But the number one thing that I have improved dramatically in my content strategy that I started off really poorly with is really niching down to what I actually want to talk about, getting really clear in my messaging and who I am talking to. So the number one thing, just like any marketing strategy, to be quite honest, is figuring out who you're talking to, what you're trying to solve for them, like what their main problem is, what you're trying to solve for them, and you're trying to guide them to your solution, obviously, and being very, very clear in the messaging and how you're getting there. So as an example, when I first started my personal brand strategy, I would talk about anything in the organic marketing space. My company and my agency does pretty much anything in organic content and organic marketing that you can think of, from content to websites to video, things like that. So I would talk about any trend, anything going on in that world at all. And what I found was, one, I was, kind of watered down because I was talking about so many different things. I didn't have a very clear position. Number two, I wasn't passionate about everything I was talking about. Like, there's things that our company does, obviously, that aren't my favorite things, but they're other people on our team's favorite things. So we do them, and they are very effective and very necessary, but they're not what I am most interested in. And I do think when founders build a personal brand, of course, the point is to bring attention to themselves from a revenue play perspective as well as their companies, but they need to talk about things they really, really care about, because it's really hard to create good content if you don't actually care about the thing that you're talking about. It's really hard to produce, like valuable assets and solutions when those things are not the things that you're most interested in. So I really got clear on exactly who I was talking to. I got very clear on my messaging and what I was trying to solve for. So through this process, I got very passionate about this idea of personal branding, the thing that I'm, talking about, the thing I was doing, I became, very passionate about talking about. And I'm a newbie. I mean, I've only been at this a couple of years. I'm not somebody who has this like 10-year-old, decades long, personal brand, but I feel like that's something that I actually can kind of offer, is that I wish as a founder myself that I had started this years and years ago. And I want to help other founders who are kind of dragging their feet or don't know how to do it, kind of get to that place a lot quicker than I did. So I figured out I want to talk to founders of small businesses, current small business owners, startup founders, solopreneurs. These are the sorts of people that I'm talking to that are in mostly small businesses, mostly startups, probably in the, 1 to 3 million, revenue sort of space. And that's who I really want to help understand these things, because those people often hide behind their logos and it's not actually effective for their businesses. So that's who I'm talking to. My messaging is very clear. I help founders build personal brands that help grow their companies. I believe that founders are the most valuable asset their company has. These are the sorts of things I say over and over and over again. And all of my content flows from that concept. I truly believe that founder-facing brands are going to be the most effective strategy for small businesses and startups over the next 5 years. And all my content flows from those concepts. So I talk about a lot of different things, and I talk about how to do this stuff, the why, the how, the practical. I also talk a lot about health and wellness for founders, because I think that that's a really big component of showing up as your best self and being able to do this. I do a lot of motivational, inspirational content for entrepreneurs too, because I'm very into that. I use like stoicism because I'm very passionate about that. I use quotes, I use book reviews, like I do some different things, but everything all comes back to this one North Star of I'm trying to help founders step into their power, their light, understand how valuable they are for their businesses. Everything comes back to that. And so I think getting very clear on your position, getting very clear on who you're talking to and what problem you're actually solving for them, and everything, just repeating that over and over again. Don't be afraid to say the same things again and again and again, and just finding different avenues to do it. Sometimes from a content, like really practically speaking, sometimes I'll come up with one concept that I feel like is pretty good, and I'll make it in 4 different ways. So it'll be a text-only post, it'll be a blog, it'll be a video, it'll be a graphic, it'll be a carousel. Like the exact same content can live in like 5 different ways. And I do it over several months, because that concept is so important. So that's really where you have to start before you build out any kind of real strategy, is figuring out exactly who you're talking to, how you're going to talk to them, and how you're actually solving their problem. Very practically, the next thing I did was I decided on the most important important platform for me to be on that I felt like was most important at the time. And that was LinkedIn when I started. And I decided I'm going to go with one platform and I'm going to post 3 days a week. And that's all I'm going to commit to at the beginning. I can just really optimize for that one space because every platform obviously has very different optimization and has very different needs. So one platform, 3 days a week. That was enough to start getting consistent, to start building a little bit of a following, to start getting people interested in chatting with me, to start building some connections, to start getting invited on podcasts and webinars and these different things. And that was a really, really good start. And I hung with that for like probably a year. And that was like really consistent. And then it's amazing. Like the more you do, they say the more you have going on, like the better and more productive you are. And I find that with content as well, because the more I also niche down to what I was really excited about talking about, which is founder personal brands, the more the content just was flowing. It was it's so easy now for me to come up with content ideas. I mean, I have this list. I never have a lack of ideas because when you're really talking about things that you care about, that you really feel like provide value to people and that you just start kind of geek out over, honestly, I do think once you've been able to commit to 3 days a week on one platform for 3 months very consistently, that's when you start upping the ante because more volume is going to make a big difference. I know that there's some people who argue more quality, less quantity. I think it's a mix of really good quality with some very casual, not as good quality, more real, more rough, but a lot of volume. I really do believe we're in a volume game right now. I know Alex Hormozy is really popular for talking about that, just the amount of content that he produces, that his companies produce, things like that. And, to each their own for sure, but it's definitely something that I have noticed a massive difference in my digital footprint. The more consistent I have been at higher volumes, I get more traction. I get more invites to being on podcasts and being in webinars. I am taken more seriously. People anecdotally also tell me to, like, I'm always seeing you. You're always in my feed. I constantly see your content. And so I do think that is a big piece of it. But getting consistent at a smaller level is the most critical piece over and over and over again. So stick there and then think about expansion. I did that for a solid year before I started expanding my volume and my platforms. And I just started YouTube like very recently. I'm very much a newbie on YouTube, but I'm having a lot of fun trying out this platform and working on it. So I think figure out how you can start small and keep incrementally growing. The biggest thing that I do that ensures that my personal brand content and strategy and the work I do doesn't take over my life and I still get it done really effectively and efficiently is putting it on my calendar like a recurring meeting that I cannot miss. So every Tuesday morning, and it's Tuesday morning when I'm filming this, I have on my Google Cal, it's like filming time, and I have a block of time set out, and that's all I do during that time is film content. I typically do my brainstorming and planning more in pockets throughout the week, and I do consider that part of my workflow as well. So I have, internal content I have to produce. I have, things I have to get ready for my video editor, for my assistant to put out, whatever. And so I do different brainstorming and planning and all of that during those times too. But I also have set on my calendar a very specific time to film. When you put things on your calendar, like it's a client meeting or it's a recurring meeting that you cannot miss, you will make it happen. And again, I really think it's super interesting how, the concept that the more you have going on, the more productive you are. I found that is very true with content. So instead of trying to just barely, dip your toe in the water, do one post here, one post there, whatever, no, just commit to it. And you will find if you're talking about things that you really care about and it's on your calendar, it will become so much easier than you think. The other thing I do all the time is just integrate content production into my regular real life. So for instance, if I'm going to make a cup of coffee, just go ahead and film it really quick. It takes an extra minute or two to set up your camera and to be able to film that. And then I have B-roll for something. When I'm out and about in the world and I see, oh, that's really pretty, or that's cool, or that would be a good idea, I go ahead and do it. Sometimes when I'm driving, I'll film safely, obviously, but I'll just set up my phone on my little car mount. I'll just put my mic on really quick and I'll just give some thoughts. It's a very casual way to, create a video that feels really authentic, but it didn't really take up any of my life because I had to go on that road trip anyway, or I had to drive to that place that was hours away anyway. So being able to just integrate the ideas that you have, the content you need to produce, whatever it is, just into your regular life, it makes it feel so much less like overwhelming, and it makes it more fun too, because you're always thinking about like, oh, that would be cool. I could do this. I could do that. And obviously there's a point of, diminishing returns on that. You don't want your entire life to always be about creating content, but I actually find too, it's a lot more fun to create than to consume. So if you find that you're spending even an hour plus a day consuming social media in any form, think about taking that in half. Think about cutting that in half and using 30 minutes of it to create. Creating is so much better for you as a human being than consuming anyway. And these are things that will actively help your business grow and get you to the place you want to be. And it's such a better use of time than just constantly consuming. Another piece of this is getting help. And I am honest, like I have a video editor, I have an assistant who helps me produce content. I absolutely have a team. I use company resources for a lot of this because we are obviously using my personal brand to promote the company. So I absolutely have help. And I think as soon as you can afford it, as soon as you can get help, that's a really, really critical piece. Whether it's just getting your initial strategy from an actual strategist, I still build out personal brand content strategies for founders. I still do coaching and consulting. Maybe it's just getting that, for a few months and getting on the right track, and then you can handle it from there. Maybe you need ongoing execution. Whatever it is, get the help that you need as soon as possible. That's going to help you stay consistent. And again, it won't feel like it's taking over your life. Lastly, always bring it back to the intention. The personal brand is not about building a personal brand is not about ego. It's not about attention for yourself or any of those things that people maybe sometimes think that it's about. It's all about bringing attention, visibility, and credibility to your business, to yourself, so that you can build the trust that you need to grow your business in the way that you want to, or even to grow revenue streams for yourself from an influencer positioning. It totally depends on what you're trying to do. All kinds of people are trying to do all different sorts of things with personal brands. Most founders I work with, they are trying to do one of two things. They are trying to simply bring more trust and credibility and visibility to their businesses, and they know they can do that most effectively with themselves. Or two, they're setting themselves up in a way that they can be a multi-venture founder. They don't necessarily want to only be tied to this one business they have right now, but they want to build a really strong personal brand that can attract, VC over time, angel investors. They can get their funding where they want it to be, and they can be known as an entity in themselves that can go and build all kinds of different things. Both of those paths can work super well for founder personal brands, but constantly bringing your strategy back to what your intention is, what you're trying to do with it, keeping it focused, that is going to help it actually be effective and actually get you to where you want to be. And again, in a way that isn't going to take over everything that you're doing all the time. Okay, 8 quick steps. If I had to sum up everything I've talked about really, really quickly, this is exactly how I would say it. Get extremely clear on who you're talking to and how you're talking to them and the problem you're solving for them. Pick one platform, commit to a small, sustainable posting schedule, niche down as soon as you can into areas you really, really care about and that are actually driving towards the things that you're trying to do as a business and as an individual as well. Put content time on your calendar. It's a recurring meeting every week and you cannot miss it. 6, integrate the stuff into your everyday life. It will make it so much more sustainable, easier, and honestly fun. 7, get support as soon as you can. 8, know how this exactly ties back to revenue that you're trying to create for yourself and for your business. If you're a founder that loved all of that, wants to make it happen, but still needs more direction, needs more help, maybe just needs a roadmap for your individual needs, I would love to chat with you. I do this all the time. Like I mentioned, I consult, I coach, I build strategies for people, and we even have ongoing execution through the Breezy Company, which is my agency. So if you're interested at all in talking more about that, I'd love to chat with you. You can shoot me a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram, or even shoot me an email at savannah@thebreezycompany.co. And if you just want to learn more about building a powerful personal brand as a founder that can help grow your company, be sure to subscribe to this channel and follow along on my other socials as well. I talk about this stuff all the time in many different forms with tons of practical advice to help you build a powerful personal brand that will actually move the needle for your company.